Hello everyone, welcome to this chapter. In this chapter, we are going to talk about IP address configuration and verification, configuring gateway for clients, and telnet configuration example. Configuring IP addresses on Cisco routers is essential for several reasons. Cisco routers use IP addresses to make routing decisions. IP addressing allows for the logical segmentation of networks. Routers are responsible for facilitating communication between different IP networks. Subnetting is a practice of dividing a larger IP network into smaller, more manageable sub-networks. Routers use routing protocols to exchange routing information with other routers. IP addresses are essential for managing and monitoring network devices. And quality of service, security policies, DHCP protocol, because routers often act as DHCP servers or relay agents. Configuring a gateway IP address for clients on both Windows and Linux operating systems is important for several reasons too. The gateway IP address is the IP address of the router or networking device that serves as the entry and the exit point for network traffic. And the gateway acts as a bridge between different networks. In most network setups, the gateway IP address is the address of the router that connects the local network to the internet. The gateway IP address is often used as the default route for client devices when using DHCP to automatically assign IP addresses to clients. The DHCP server typically provides the gateway IP address along with other network configuration information. Some network services and applications, especially those that involve communication across different networks, require the presence of a gateway. In the event of network issues, having a correctly configured gateway allows for easier troubleshooting. Configuring telnets or SSH on Cisco routers and switches is crucial for secure and remote management of these network devices. Telnet and SSH provide a means for network administrators to manage Cisco routers and switches remotely. Without these protocols, administrators would need physical access to the devices, which may not be practical in large or geographically dispersed networks. Command line interface access, or CLI. Telnet and SSH allow administrators to access the command line interface of Cisco devices. While Telnet sends data including login credentials in clear text, SSH encrypts the communication between the client and the device. If you go to this link, github/Nemax, and then click Udemy Cisco Packet Tracer NetAdmin CCNA Lab, and then part 1, and then chapter 4. We have all of the files, lab template packet tracer file, all of the notes and tips and tricks and information related to this chapter, which is this file, and the lab file. Okay, for chapter 4, the packet tracer file that you can download, the template file, and if you open the file, you have this network. We have this kind of network here. We have two subnets connected to the switch and a router that is connected to the switch. Okay, in chapter 4, first of all, for IP address configuration and verification on the router, to configure IP address on Cisco router interfaces, you need to access the router's command line and use the following commands. Assuming you want to configure IP address 192.168.11.254 on Fast Ethernet 0 and 192.168.13.254 on Fast Ethernet 01, we should log into the router, enable mode, conft interface fast Ethernet 00, configuring IP address, and enable the interface with no shutdown commands, and another interface which is interface fast Ethernet 01, IP address configuration and no shutdown. So router Cisco enable Cisco. All of the passwords are Cisco. You can check the interfaces using the command show IP interface brief. We have no IP address configured. So conf-t, and then select the interface fast Ethernet 00, and IP address 192.168.11.254 with a subnet mask like this, and then no shutdown to enable the interface. By default, the interfaces are disabled. Okay, right now if you check the IP address of the interfaces, you can check with do show IP interface brief. You know that. Okay, you can exit, or without exit you can select another interface like interface fast Ethernet 01, and then configure the IP address, another IP address 13.254, and press enter, and then no shutdown. If you type exit or Ctrl+C, in this mode you can check the IP addresses. Right now we have configured the IP addresses on the router interfaces. For verification, we can ping the other side of the network. What I mean by that is that, for instance, we have clients, command prompt, ipconfig, and from here you can ping 11.254. Okay, and another network, here you can ping 13.254. But right now we cannot ping another network from here. For example, from PC1 to PC0 we have no connectivity. We cannot ping 192.168.11.1 because we don't have a default gateway here. As you can see, we don't have default gateway on this computer. If we configure the gateway, the computer can send the traffic for the other network to the gateway, and we have the connectivity after that. Number 2, configuring gateway for clients. For Windows clients in the network with the IP range 192.168.11.0, set the default gateway to 192.168.11.254. Similarly, for clients in the network with the IP range 192.168.13.0, set the default gateway to 192.168.13.254 in the IP configuration. So, for the clients, IP configuration, we configure Okay, ipconfig. We have the gateway configured and ping the other side. First of all, the gateway. I have the connectivity and 13.1 for example. As you can see, I can ping the other side. For instance, I can ping PC1. So I have connectivity from PC0 to PC1. Why is that? As we configured the gateway on the clients, PC0 can send the traffic to the other networks through the router here on this interface, and then the router can send the traffic to the other network using this interface, and then the PC1 get the traffic, and PC1 has a gateway too, so can send the traffic to this interface, and the router knows how to send the traffic to this network, and then the PC0 get the traffic. So this router can act as a layer 3 device and do routing or perform routing. On the router, you can check the routing table too, show IP routes. As you can see here, we have two networks connected. 11.0 and 13.0 is directly connected to the fast Ethernet 0/0 and 0/1. On the router, we can check the ARP table too. With the command show IP ARP, you can check the ARP cache on the router too. For the IP address like 11.1 or 13.1, we can see that the MAC address of the PC0 and PC1 like this, and check the ARP cache. So this is the command. And if we want to check the ARP cache on the client side, command prompts, press enter, ARP-A. We don't have any ARP entry for network 13 because we just can have connectivity in our network, which is 11.0. So if we ping other networks like 13.254 or other computers or notebooks or other devices, you have the connectivity, but there is no entry in ARP cache. So you send the traffic just to the router, and then the router sends the traffic to the other side. Okay, on the router, we know that we can write the configuration with this command or copy running config to startup config. Number 3, Telnet configuration example. To configure Telnet on a Cisco router with the password Cisco and an exact timeout of 30 minutes, you can use the following commands. These commands should be entered in the router's command line interface or CLI. So we should log into the router, enable mode conft and line VTY 0 to 4 or line VTY 0 to 15, and password Cisco, login, and exec timeout 30. Exec timeout 30, this command sets the exec timeout to 30 minutes. The value represents 30 minutes and 0 seconds. And then save the configuration. And this configuration assumes that you are configuring the telnet parameters for the virtual terminal lines from 0 to 4, so you can adjust the line numbers if needed based on your specific requirements. Okay, log into the router, conft line VTY 0 to 4 or 0 to 15, password Cisco, login, exec timeout, and exit. I write the configuration and then check the running config with show run. As you can see, we have interfaces with the IP address and line VTY 0 to 15 with the password. So right now, as we configured the line VTY from 0 to 15, we can telnet to the router from the PC or notebook, access the router CLI using a terminal emulator like PuTTY, TerraTerm, or Hyperterminal. Right now, on the PC0 command prompt, I press enter, ipconfig, I can ping the router, I can telnet to 11.254 from here. It asks for the password, which is Cisco. I press enter, and then I type enable. The password is Cisco2. I press enter, and I have telnet connectivity to the router. So from here, I can type, for instance, show IP interface brief or show version. This is the router. And then I can type exit. I disconnect from the router. Thank you for listening.